Hello and welcome to Art Portals. Today we are joined by our lovely guest, Paula Camacho, and she is a painter. She's an extraordinary human being,
And one of our
and
best friends.
we're going to get to know her a little bit better on today's episode.
Hi, Paula.
Hey y'all. It's good to
How's
be
your
here.
day been going?
Pretty chill, pretty calm. Yeah. Yeah. What about y'all?
Just, out here, another day, another art.
Yeah, big chilling.
Big chillin'.
Big
Well,
chilling.
Paula, I feel that maybe we should start by introducing where our friendship really began. Because I love to just remind everybody how we all met in undergrad in the studio, like as one of the last ones working really late at night, painting and having lots of fun. Paula, I want to hear though more about your background. What made you start painting? What inspired you to begin working? And when did you realize you wanted to make this your profession?
So I had been painting since way before college, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I didn't realize how little of an understanding I had of color and how to use color until I took our mentor's class, Carla, her intermediate painting class, which could honestly probably just be called beginning painting because she really taught us from the ground up. And at some point she invited me into the advanced painting room, which I mean obviously you guys know, but it's like this room with all these cute little cubicle kind of studio spaces. Everything is very makeshift and there's so much character in there. And like I was just so I was so enamored with that concept of just having like a dedicated space for myself in the school to work. And I was also super impressed with the paintings that were in there. And so I was like, what if I could do that? Like that looks really cool. It looks really impressive. And so honestly, there were no thoughts in my mind when I decided to go for painting. I just kind of like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a painter because before that, I actually wanted to go into sculpture really, really badly.
Wow.
But then yeah, then that one instance of going into that room kind of changed everything for me. And I didn't really think about it too much. I was just like, okay, that's where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be a painter.
Yeah, sometimes it's
So
just about like listening to your intuition and just going for what feels right, even if it might not work out. You're like, well, I'm just going to try this out. Let's see how it goes.
yeah,
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 one of
I'm
the
a
first paintings I remember seeing of yours was the paper bag assignment,
that
where
was
we
the
had
very
to.
first one.
Yep, that was your first painting?
That was my first painting in college. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What did you make before though? Did you ever like paint for fun or
Oh yeah.
maybe like as a kid?
Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so if we go to the very origin of everything,
Yes.
I've there's photos of me that my parents have where I'm literally a toddler and I have like a pen in my hand or I'm like meticulously cutting a piece of paper. So I've been at this for like as long as I can remember, honestly, as long as I can remember. So I've got my 10,000 hours in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us more about your origin story. I know you went to a college prior to us meeting, as did we.
Mhm.
Yeah, so before University of Central Florida, which is where we all met, um, I was at Florida International University for a semester and terrible art program. Nobody go over there for art. Don't go there. Um, yes, PSA. And then the one prior to that was Virginia Commonwealth University. Amazing, amazing program. So definitely go to that one if you can. But UCF was pretty good actually. Like I really felt like I was surrounded by people who were taking it seriously, like you guys and like our mentors. So that was super important for me because at FIU, I didn't feel that way at all. Like, yeah, no.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've heard some things about the FIU program. Some good things, some not so good things, but I think it's just really about like finding your community because even when you're given that space and you're able to grow, sometimes you're not given like the acceptance. Sometimes that you need to keep pushing you forward. And yeah, sometimes is it the program? Is it not the program? Most of the times it is. So just really want to be
Yeah.
mindful of where you're committing your next few years to if you're trying to grow as an artist.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
tell us more. I know you're from South Florida, and you ended up in Virginia. How did that happen?
So I think a big part of me was just trying to get out of Florida. And I was just trying to go for the best program that I could find at the cheapest price. But even then, I mean, it was pretty expensive. So that's why I ended up coming back to Florida, going to FIU. Um, yeah, that was
Nice.
kind of it. I feel like as Floridians, people who grow up in Florida are always kind of striving to leave. So,
Yeah,
and
You
we've
yeah,
know,
successfully done that. So, yay for us.
absolutely.
it's so cool how we all left around the same time as well. Like we all amongst each other were planning to leave, but sometimes your financial constraints and other constraints, like you're kind of stuck there. And there's like always this running a joke, like everybody wants to leave Florida, but nobody can actually afford to get out. So if you make it out, you're just like, you're never coming back. You know, that's usually the mentality. But so where are you right now? Like, where did you move? Can you tell us about what made you want to be where you are?
So I'm in Denver right now, and I freaking love it. Um, Originally, I came to Colorado for a residency, and I was only supposed to be here for a month. And then all these things happened where I ended up having my space in Miami moved out and put into storage. And this was all by choice. And then at that point, I was kind of like out in the world. Like I didn't really live anywhere in particular. Like the world was my home at that point. And so I had a couple different kind of art events around. I ended up going to Washington State for a festival to work at a festival, do Jaguar tattoos, and then immediately after that, I came back to Denver where I had left my car, and that was for the psychedelic conference, the MAPS conference, and I was live painting there, and I met all these incredible artists, and that event really like opened my eyes to, I guess, the Denver art community. And I spoke to a lot of artists that were there, that you know, like lived there, live here. And everyone was so friendly, so warm, and so encouraging for me to stay and explore it. And so I was like, you know what, fuck it, I will. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna find more excuses to stay here longer. And so I did, and I ended up getting another art residency. It wasn't like a live-in residency. I just got a studio space, but that was like a 3-month thing. So perfect excuse to stay much longer. Yeah. So my residency ended back in November. And all throughout that time, like right before, I mean, the month or two before the residency, and then all throughout the residency, I was living out of my car. And I was also kind of like partially housing myself with this thing called trusted house sitters, which you basically exchange, you know, taking care of someone's home and their pets, and you get to stay there for free. So that's pretty cool. I know there's other things that you can do where they'll actually pay you, but I didn't know about those at the time. But yeah, so a month in Colorado turned into, what is it? I think this is like my 10th month.
Wow.
And
Wow,
now, yeah, now I have a roof over my head,
it's
which is such a
amazing.
blessing, especially since it's winter now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It sounds like so many things like led into you really figuring out like this is where you're meant to be. And like being in the right community is one thing, but like also being accepted and like being noticed as well, because you're literally not only putting yourself in a really vulnerable and like tough situation, just you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna live in my car and like check this out and like be open to that road and that space that I'm trying to explore. And there's just something magical that begins to happen because I feel like you're in a space where you are listening to like your higher intuition, and from there like you're given those opportunities. So those residencies, those art gallery opportunities, making the right connections, it like all feeds into you evolving as an artist. What do you do when you're in the space where, let's just say, because something like that does take a level of strength and bravery. It takes knowing how to deal with rejection if things don't work out and trusting that something better is coming. So how do you motivate yourself in those spaces? And does that inspire your art process when you do?
So on the topic of rejection, I mean, that's absolutely part of the game. You know, as an artist, you're gonna get rejected again and again and again, and you just gotta keep keep trying, keep shooting your shot at different hoops, so to speak.
Yeah.
How do I stay motivated? Yeah, I mean, that that what I just said, yeah, I just keep trying because like what's the alternative? Like I can't just stop. I'm not gonna just give up because I got one rejection or 100 rejections. And some will hurt more than others. There was one in particular that really just really hurt because I would have gotten housed in a really cool area of Denver and they got my hopes up and everything, and then turns out they didn't choose me. So
Yeah.
that really hurt. But I mean, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep going. And
Yeah.
what was the other part of your question?
I was wondering, like, if that's inspired the art that you've been making, like all this change, like being around all this nature, all this, like, and hardships are a part of it, of course. But I'm wondering if there's a level of that has inspired your art process and the things that you're working on now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a few pieces that are directly inspired by some pretty intense hikes that I've had. Yeah, the landscape here has really, really impacted me. And being here in Denver, I feel like just I have the Southwest just at my fingertips. I feel like nothing feels too far away from me. Like a
Mhm.
5 hour drive, that's quick and easy. You know, I can go to New Mexico in a couple hours and just vibe. And yeah, I've had the opportunity to go, yeah, through New Mexico, through Arizona, Nevada, Utah. I went visited you guys in California. Like I love being so close to all of these incredible nature areas because yeah, very very much very inspiring and very like relevant to the body of work that I have been making so far. Even when I was in Florida, when I wasn't even like visiting these kinds of landscapes before, but now that I'm here, it's like okay, like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And then all the synchronicities that I see in my life and all the ways in which so many doors continue to open for me and I continue getting invited to things really solidifies that fact that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And all of like the beautiful interactions that I've been having to have also really inspired my art. And I have a piece kind of in the making that is related to that more or less, which I
Yeah,
will be
so
speaking.
I'm curious, has your love for painting been an extension of your love for nature, or has your relationship with nature influenced your paintings? Or is it just they both inspire each other? How do you feel that nature works into your paintings?
I feel like it's both things kind of feed into each other. And I think at some point there was a time before this one particular art piece that I made where I actually wasn't as connected to nature as I thought I was. You know, I used to feel very like, ooh, like I don't want to get too close to that bush. I don't want to like touch the tree. Like I don't want to like physically like be in such close proximity because I was scared of like creatures and bugs and shit. But then I made this big like nature installation kind of nest thing, and I thought that the end result, like by the time that I would finish that installation, would be like the moment of epiphany. You know, like oh, I did this, I finished it. Like now I'm gonna like get in this nest nude and take a photograph in it, and that's gonna be like the peak of the whole experience, this whole experiment that I was trying to do with myself to try to like break down those barriers. But it was really the whole process, the whole process of collecting all the materials, all the branches and shit. And and I surprised myself because at some point I noticed I was like, I was deep in bushes trying to reach like a particular branch that I saw over there. And like, it was, Yeah, that piece in particular changed my relationship with nature big time. So after that, it was like everything that I was trying to process and I guess conceptualize in order to create new work just got just got brought up to another level. Like it was just my intimacy with nature just completely changed. I mean, there was actually an intimacy that I had with nature at that point. And so that has really, really, really like pushed my compositions forward.
Yeah, because nature isn't just this like beautiful thing. It's actually raw and hectic and crazy. And there's so much that just like naturally adapts within that environment. And to be a human being, we are a part of it. Like we're all connected. And that's what I love about your work is that there's more than just like this kind of beautiful landscape. It's almost this like spiritual connection that we have within it, and even through some of like the cracks and like the sand hardcore cactus, that because you have that one painting with the cactus everywhere. It's like if you were actually enveloped in that environment, it would be pretty scary, but there is something mystical about that experience. And I do definitely actually see your connection between that flip of the appreciation for it within the process, instead of just like, this, it's pretty and I want to like aestheticize this nature.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, I love that. What is it like? What is your process like when you start a painting? How do you usually go about your ideas, and then how do you bring that to life?
So typically I feel like there's not a theme that I'm trying to explore unless like I have some type of assignment or some type of commission, or like recently I was invited to do a triptych at this gallery in Portland. I'll tell you guys about that after. Really excited about that. But
That's
usually there's like there's a composition that's kind of nagging and kind of pushing forth in my consciousness. And I don't really question it. I'll just go into my sketchbook. I'll do like the tiniest little thumbnail sketch of it. And just to kind of get a general idea of like the structure of the composition. And then maybe I'll do like a slightly bigger thumbnail to just kind of flesh out some more details and maybe like get some values in and decide like on the light source and whatnot. And then I'll blow it up on the canvas. And usually I don't really exactly know what these compositions mean until after I'm done with it. Or
Mhm.
sometimes like the understanding comes throughout the process. But yeah, I don't question it. I just do it, because the idea has me and it chose me to manifest it. So, I just sometimes when these ideas come, you're like, oh, I don't really like that idea. It's kind of dumb, it's kind of stupid, but it just keeps nagging at you. And it's kind of like that refusal to answer the call, but then you answer the call, and then this whole world opens up to you. And by this whole world, I mean like the painting itself and everything that it shows you about yourself and about itself too. Like what does this image mean? Why is this composition trying to push forth? Like what can I learn about myself through this? And that's been a big part of my process too, like the aftermath of painting, when I actually get to like psychoanalyze myself through the piece, which has been big.
Yeah, so to me, it sounds like your paintings are somewhere between a self-portrait and maybe like an art therapy. Is that close to how you feel about your paintings?
Yeah, yeah, more or less. More or less. I feel like a lot of my pieces definitely reflect something about me,
Hmm.
and about, I guess, the state of my soul, or maybe various things I'm exploring at the time. And yeah, and then like the art therapy kind of side of it comes afterwards, where I can kind of like look at it, analyze it, and just surprise myself, you know, just
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel like all three of us have a connection with a spiritual element within our work, and I definitely see that within yours, and I think you celebrate that more on a like a more outwardly facing approach, which I really appreciate that. I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on how spirituality influences your artwork.
Yeah. So initially, when I was first kind of developing this body of work, I was very, I was very attracted to the whole concept of nature and whatever, whatever. And then that whole art installation that I just told you about happened, and that really changed a lot of things for me. And then soon after that very deep experience that I had in the forest when I made that installation, I had my first ayahuasca experience, which was a massively transformative experience for me. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, that's
like
huge.
it was so much. And and then that really catapulted a lot, like that's really been influencing the majority of my body of work. And I've been really hesitant to kind of say that so outwardly, so
Mhm.
publicly, because I don't like the idea of people thinking like, oh, she needs to have substances in order to be inspired and blah blah whatever. But it's like I'm not even painting any visions that I've never painted any visions that I've had. I The majority of my body of work that was inspired by ayahuasca is inspired by the lesson, like
Mm.
the all the takeaways from that super mystical experience. And I think it's important to kind of change your state of consciousness every now and then, so that you're not on this, like,
Linear.
yeah, like you're not
Yeah.
on like a linear
Yeah,
kind of
like a path.
worldview.
I think
Yeah.
if anything, it's not you need to do that in order to come up with ideas. I think if anything, it's I don't need to be me. I can relax into something. I can be taught something by a plant and come
Mhm.
back, and I still trust myself to be able to make art. And I think of it almost as if you're taking out the trash, like you're getting rid of parts of yourself that you don't need and welcoming in healing in order to be more present in front of the canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
also think that the art world is a little hesitant into accepting psychedelic healing as a part of, the art process, which, let's face it, the majority of people, especially huge creatives, do take psychedelics. But I think that those stigmas are definitely starting to break, because you can really start to notice what happens when you're, tuned into that inspiration. Because I believe that, like, creativity is like a bank that we all have access to, and it's just about learning to tune into that. And, like, yes, our life experiences and the things we see influence that, but again, our ability to really tune into ourselves within that process is what gives us that capability to create unique and different things. And yeah, ayahuasca is definitely a huge part of that. I mean, if you would like to, I'd love to hear about your experience with that. Like, what was one of the lessons that really catapulted your art?
I think some of the biggest takeaways that have influenced my work is the decision to go into such a big experience. I've painted a lot of pieces where maybe there's like a huge hole in the ground, or like an entrance of some sort, and it's like an invitation to enter.
Mm.
And you're like confronted with that decision, in the composition itself. You're not like actively entering it, but it's like there for you to do it if you so wish to do so. And there's also like this sense of peace in the rest of the elements throughout the piece, um which kind of indicate like this is you're gonna be okay, like this is safe, and this is natural and organic, and you're safe, like you're here with the mother of the earth. And what was the rest of your question? What was
No, I feel like you totally
That's the
answered that
perfect
perfect.
answer.
Like,
Yeah.
so something that I like to also think about is that, because your purpose almost is something that you kind of go through life, so your experiences help you be more attentive and aware of that. And so something I like to question is, like, how do we live in alignment? Because being in alignment with yourself is something that takes a sense of, pulling down that mask and that outer wall that we present to the world. And it seems like to be able to be vulnerable is a part of your alignment, because that is something that feeds into it. And so I'd love to hear about, like, what you believe living in your alignment is and how that influences what you do.
Yeah, so on that point of vulnerability, yeah, you definitely need to crack yourself open in order for new things to come in. And so you got to put yourself in that position so that, new things come in. I think you really need to be so deeply in tune with yourself and what it is that you like and what you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you can kind of do that process of elimination of things I don't like, you can get to the list of things you do like
Mm-hmm.
and what you gravitate towards, what attracts you. And it's not like you decide that. You don't decide what you like or what you don't like. So that's kind of like a roadmap that's kind of set for you already. And so if you're going against the grain of your desire nature and you're doing something with your life, you're dedicating so much time and energy with your life into something that you don't doesn't really light you up, you're kind of wasting your time. You're kind of wasting your energy. And you could be spending all of that on something that actually lights you up. And I don't think it really all the pieces will eventually fall together in terms of like financial security and finding community within what you do, as long as you follow that path that because we all have our sense of intuition, and we got to tap into that.
Yeah.
And when you feel like you're not in the right place, like you will know. And a lot of people will bury that and negate their instincts and ignore it, and that's kind of going against the grain of
Yeah.
your alignment. You're not aligned, and things start kind of crumbling here and there, and they don't work out. You're not even that good at this thing that you're dedicating your life to, that you're not even passionate about, you don't care about. So even though, like, using myself as an example, even though I've put myself in this position where I was living out of my car for many months, and it was getting really freaking old. I mean, initially it was like a cool adventure and like an experience that I actually did want to have. It started feeling a little more like it was not really by choice, because financially I couldn't really afford like a proper place at the time. And right now I do have a roof over my head, and granted it's very, very tiny, but like all of these hardships, in no moment in this entire time where I've been going through all of this have I felt like this I chose the wrong thing. I chose the wrong place to be. I chose the wrong, you know, way to be living my life. At no point has any of this felt wrong. It's felt so freaking right despite the hardships,
Yeah.
and you got to learn to differentiate between that, what feels good, or yeah, what feels good or bad versus what feels right or wrong for you.
Yeah, sometimes you got to jump through the portal.
Yeah.
You got to go visit mom. But I love the way that you described that, and I do feel that psychedelics are an essential component of that. If you aren't feeling that I know how to get out of this feeling, maybe you need to welcome the mother into your life, and maybe nature is something that you need to explore more. And I always think of it as going back home for the holidays. You're confronting all these feelings and thoughts that you haven't had for a while, but if you do it right at the end of it, it's just, yeah, come back anytime. Like you're safe and you're loved, and it is like a relationship that you need to develop with yourself. And definitely it's not the only way, but I think psychedelics will give you the spanking you need sometimes.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, absolutely. Well, personally, I've never felt like psychedelics have given me any type of spanking.
Oh, I
I feel like
definitely
they're
have.
very. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think it really is just all about knowing how you feel. And sometimes when you force situations onto yourself, when you need a moment to breathe, it's like, okay, well, now you're going to deal with these feelings, bitch. Like, you can't run away from it. And I feel like everyone is different, but I've been somebody that learns through experience. And so that experience like really kind of shook me to my core and changed my whole perspective. And so like, yeah, like operating from that alignment has been really the main thing. And I love how you keep persevering through like all these challenges, all these difficulties. Like, you know, you could be focusing all of your energy on the fact that you didn't have a place to sleep, that you've been just like waiting for somebody to notice you or like, you know, give you a space, but you're not, because there are people that notice you. There is a community out there. There is a place for you. And even if nobody sees it, there's that nature, there's that surrounding, and just putting yourself away from just like that sort of boxed, squared mentality is what can really motivate you and uplift your next step. So I think that as artists, being able to operate from a space where we are truly happy and joyful with everything we do, even if the piece we're doing is a little dark and in your shadow and scary, but there is that healing and that joy that comes from every single experience that you go through. And so I really think that you embody that, and I feel that we all do it in our own way. So it's just really motivating everyone.
Yeah, it is really cool to see all the various interpretations of that exploration.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I find kind of interesting in my work, what I recently kind of noticed is that when I'm preparing to enter into those states, when I'm preparing for a medicine ceremony, the last one I did was Bufo, and I was so freaking nervous, but I was looking at the art around my room, and I was like, yo, like I've been making work about this, and there's nothing to be afraid of, you know?
Mhm.
Like my work has been in looking at my work in preparation for that big experience, I realized that it was kind of talking back to me. It was like kind of coming full circle. Like I made it, and then I kind of like learned from it and then put it away, and then when it came time to it, it was useful for me again. I looked at these portals like you said earlier, Rex, like you're going through the portal. Yes, absolutely. Like that's that is what is about to happen, and that's what a lot of my compositions kind of show. You know, there's a portal there for you to enter, and you're safe.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that these entities, they take delight in us being on our shit and like working out, taking care of ourselves and creating imagery that it likes or that we like. And it feels like an extension of ourselves as being, I don't know, just tickled or just generally being delighted. And I definitely see it within your work. You're loving what you're doing, and I can see a very positive relationship between you and plants.
Thank you.
Yeah. People will always project the linear and the safe route onto artists, because it does take a level of bravery and just like trusting, like you have literally no idea if this is going to, you know, support your career and if you're going to be able to like actually start it. But when people tell you like don't do this, or you know, create that hotel art, or you know, commercialize yourself so that you can be more comfortable, it's almost like this counterintuitive process where you're just like, I'm going to do the opposite of that. And maybe that like stems from a little bit of rebellion, but there is just like this understanding that you do have to kind of push the limitations of what's expected, because in society there is, I feel, a lot of fear, but there is also something beautiful that can be learned through that. And I love to think that when you are an individual, that will overtake all of that. And so you're operating from alignment, you're operating from a space where this is your higher calling, and all the other doubts, all the other uncertainties, like they don't matter. You know, you can go and get that high school teaching job and, you know, all of your time is gone, or you can get a serving job, humble yourself a little bit, and guess what? You have the rest of your week to actually bust ass and work hard, you know? How important do you feel routine is in a structure of, you know, being an artist?
Oh, I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I cannot do without a proper weekly routine. Like at the very minimum, I will work out throughout the week, 5 days a week. Like I don't miss a day, because if I do, then everything just kind of goes out the window. Like all my like my mental organization, my mental clarity, and yeah, structure is so important. That used to be something that I used to heavily over rely on before I graduated. And then when I graduated, that structure was just kind of out the window, and I felt like I was like in limbo. And I'm wondering if you guys feel the same way. I feel like Loren, like you were kind of more like ready to get out of that and do your own thing. And I so wanted to be like that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like COVID also was kind of like a moment where we were like, okay, well, we're trapped in this this area, but I'm just like, hell yeah, hitting that unemployment. I lost my job. I'm gonna utilize this and freaking work. But I feel like I see that in all of us in our own ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got schmacked with the pandemic right after Paula and I were in the same BFA seminar class, and we did the whole show together in December of 2019. So yeah, we had a couple months, and then right after that, we couldn't go outside or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever everyone ended up doing. But in our case, I definitely felt a longing for that structure, but I, like we were talking about, I'm kind of rebellious. Like if a teacher tells me what to do, I want to do the opposite. So for me, I had to be my own teacher and rebellious teenager who needs you out of his room. So I felt that I had to create assignments or artificial deadlines, and I think that I still kind of do that. And that longing, that sense of, oh man, I have too much freedom. I need to reel it in and create a routine. I think that was instilled after college, but I still do it even though it's been 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, you have to. You absolutely have to, because if not, then you're in limbo, you know? You're a mess.
Yeah, you're not accountable if you don't
Yeah.
have any deadlines. You don't. Yeah,
It's how you
Yeah.
train yourself too, because like I think, like we'll probably do an episode about this one of these days, but being a student and going to art school, the benefits are that you learn how to have a structure because you don't recognize it. We all want to be artists in our head, but then you recognize like, wait, we have to be our own like marketers, we have to be our own designers, we have to be, social media, putting ourselves out there, sales people, like we have to know how to socialize, how to talk about our work, blah, blah, blah. So it's like so many things, and it does help give you that structure. But for me, I stopped looking and at the need and what society tells me I have to be, and like making and creating my art is like a form of capital. And it's more so just like, okay, I'm operating from a space of passion, and because I'm very passionate and like this is what I want to do with my life, I'm not focusing on all of the extra details. Like all of that comes. And then when I'm in that space and I feel confident, I feel calm about where I'm at, then suddenly when there is an opportunity where I need to speak about it or I need to market myself, I know how to do it, and I'm not like double thinking that. And it's not something that is an overnight process. Like I had to really mess up some opportunities in order to really experience that. You're kind of surrendering to that ideology, and you're like, all right, show me what you got. I don't know what to expect, but this is where I'm at now.
and I think that if you're not expecting anything out of yourself, then you can't be disappointed. But you're also in a sense of security that's false, and you aren't confronting your fears. And I think that it takes a lot of homework and a lot of inner work in order to be a successful and happy person and carry that into your work. And if you don't do all those things, you aren't challenging yourself. It's going to show in your paintings or your sculptures, whatever you're doing. So it's so important to, if you can't find a community that challenges you, to create that within your own home or your own studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that sounds like a huge, huge challenge. Just because, I mean, to me at least, it sounds like a huge challenge to try to create that without a community. To create a community within your own like home, within your own space by yourself. Because I personally thrive so well when I'm in community, and when I have other artists that I can kind of just be around, socialize with, and just like be in community with. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's
and
super
yeah,
important. Yeah.
I remember brushing back on what we talked about earlier. We had a studio next to each other at UCF, and so it'd be like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., just like peek around my curtain in our little shanty town of a studio, and you're also there like hunched up like painting, and it's
The
just
back
so,
problems are real.
but it's
Like,
so nice just knowing I'm not alone. Like obviously I have my own space, but I'm not the only one working towards this collective vision, and there's a due date, there's a show, or there's a critique coming up. Like all of
Yeah.
that is in the back of my mind, and it feels nice almost to have an impending doom that I'm working against. Like I'm on the hero's journey, and I need to conquer the dragon. Like there's always got to be something you're working against. Otherwise, what are you scanning for? What's the problem that you're resolving? And you're going to
Yeah.
cave in on yourself.
Working against or working toward.
Mm.
I don't know. One of those. Both. Neither.
I feel like it's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
working
both,
towards,
yeah.
because if things are against you, then it almost feels like, just wasn't this good enough this time. I have to keep improving myself so that I can like be on that level, that same level. But if you're working with something, then you're in a relationship where it's like more like, I know I'm not perfect. I know things aren't going to be easy, and I'm accepting of where I'm at now. And that allows you to kind of catapult yourself to that next level.
Yeah, and it is about that mindset. Like, are you working against something, or are you working towards something? And how are you telling yourself, what is something happening at you or for you, type thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's super important to always be giving yourself that kind of impending doom type deadline. You don't have to think about it that way either, but I think it's super important to, as an artist, if you want to maintain like a momentum in your practice and, continue adding structure to it, to just keep shooting your shot at different opportunities, like on the regular, and have a list where you can cross off things that you've applied to, and like when the deadline is, and like put shit on your calendar, and like use a calendar, you know what I mean? Get organized.
Yeah.
And you can also, something that I've done is that I've kind of like trained my discovery page algorithm thing on Instagram to give me posts about different opportunities. And yeah, like a lot of those are from a long time ago. They're long expired, but then if they're interesting enough, they might happen. I mean, I might save them because they might happen again, for the next round of that opportunity. So I'll save that. And there's countless websites and countless resources where you can find these kinds of opportunities for you as an artist, and they all have deadlines. And so maybe you don't need that like structure that school gives you anymore, but then you can give it to yourself with these other professional opportunities, and you work hard so that you can submit on time. And I hope none of y'all are like me who submits at 11:59 p.m. I've been getting better with it. But
yeah. We just like
Oh,
will
man.
not even do it if it's like too close to the time.
yeah, because then it
But
just
I
won't
mean,
come
hey,
out good.
you never
Yeah.
know. Those that you still submitted, and even if it doesn't work out, it's something. And like sometimes when you reach out to somebody, it's like you never expect them to reach back to you, and it's like this spur of the moment type situation. So I think, like, I don't know, just leaving your mindset within an abundance mindset. Like you're always ready to receive things, even if it doesn't work out in favor, even if, yeah, like maybe it was just a lesson and I just needed to go through that. And now I feel like I know I'm not going to apply for things like that next time, like juried exhibitions, especially if you have to pay for them.
Yeah.
We've had
Yeah.
some interesting experiences with those in the past, but
Yeah.
definitely if you're going to apply for shows, the freer the better, because then there's an incentive on the artist itself. You should never have to sacrifice your money to maybe be selected into something.
That's true. That's true. And I think it's especially important to also mention like residencies that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of that anymore, just because then it feels like you're paying for a service rather than you know, like you're entering your work and displaying your merits into something that's going to be selected based off of like your actual the quality of your work and the quality of your application. Like it, you know, I don't know. I'm not a fan of paying for a residency because especially if there's no like actual programming and if there's no professional development or none of that,
Yeah.
then it's just kind of a retreat, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's
Paying for a
something.
vacation.
Yeah, paying for vacation, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're paying for a space that is just called an artist residency, and there's so many of those. And I mean, if that's what you want, cool, you know? It might be cool for some people to just kind of like get out of their usual life
Hmm.
and have like a little art retreat with a studio space in it and everything. But in terms of professional development, that's not really going to do much for you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I think that you do have to kind of be a little smart financially, especially if this is something that you want to be your career. But I think most of what we're talking about is like, yes, you live in alignment with your art practice, but you're also wanting to survive through the rest of your life with it. And there are all these limitations in life that come up. And, you know, if you're just trying to have a personal experience with art, you can totally do that. But for most of us, as professionals, we do have to learn to adapt, not just within our mindsets, but within the choices we make in our lives. And you do have to kind of be aware, like, okay, yeah, like I want to go to Italy and study with this in this area because it's the perfect location and there's all these art and resources around me, but I'm paying an arm and a leg to be here just so that I can like put it on my CV, which is like, is that worth it? You know?
Yeah, one exception to the rule I would say would be the residency that Paula and I did in New York with the New York Academy of Art. That
Oh,
one,
yeah.
it had a curriculum, and I know that part of the reason why you wouldn't do that is because you're just paying for a vacation. But for this particular residency, it was just a month-long intensive atelier. Basically, you just get shit on for a month, and it was great. I loved it. But I do think that if you're paying for something, I expect a curriculum in that way
Yes.
and some sort
Yeah.
of support. Like they did a whole show at the end, and yeah, just you got live models you're drawing and all that. But if it weren't for that, yeah, I probably wouldn't have paid for it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And the one that I did after that was more of like a an artist retreat, you know. There wasn't much of a curriculum. There was a separate program, but it wasn't exactly part of the residency specifically.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then the last residency that I did, which was the 3-month one here in Denver, that one I didn't have to pay an application fee. They
Wow.
didn't ask for any fees at all whatsoever. I didn't pay a dime.
Wow.
Nice.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and they offered like a business class, and they offered $500 for your choice of art store. So that was really amazing. And then like a final show, of course. And it's in a great location here in Denver. It's in one of the art districts. So I think if you keep your eye out for opportunities like that where they offer a lot for very minimal kind of output on your end financially, that's the and if they can give you a stipend, oof,
Yes.
better.
Icing on the cake.
I
Mwah.
and housing too, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's so many options and opportunities, and it's just really about, even if they're not easily accessible to you, making that opportunity for yourself within your own comfort. A part of being an artist is, you know, having the right community. But if that's not easily accessible to you, being in a space where there is a connection that you have within the art, you're growing through that experience, you're making things that allow you to feel trust within yourself, trust within the universe, and circling that back. And again, you don't have to be a painter. This is just for being an artist, right? There's so much that we can cause within our own lives when we limit ourselves from doing what we want to do in our lives, what our heart desires. The last question that I have for you is, please tell us about like where you see yourself like 5, 10 years even from now, and what your big plans are for the future.
Oh, I like that question. I feel really good about my future. I feel like things are starting to snowball a little bit gradually. Gradually, I'm starting to need to put less effort into getting opportunities for myself because they gradually are coming to me a little bit more. Still have to keep that ball rolling, but
Mm.
5 years. I definitely will be living in a normal place with like a my own shower and like a kitchen and not have to sneak around and pretend like I don't live here. 10 years, I really, really hope I really want to create my dream art project, which is buying land, designing my home, which I'm gonna build in like Adobe style with like mud, bags, kind of like that, like very natural organic building. Um, and just design everything. Design every little aspect. That is my dream. That is my dream project.
Yes,
And I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. I don't know where I'm gonna have this place, but somewhere. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
exactly.
Yeah. And 10 years,
Beautiful.
that would be great. That's great timing. Yeah, that would be soon. It feels kind of soon. 10 years. I
I
don't know.
know, right?
For such a big thing like that. Yeah. At least to get started. I don't know.
It'll sneak up on us, but we're gonna plan, we're gonna use that calendar, and we're gonna
Yeah.
create a routine that leads us there.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe
Exactly. I
we
don't know
can be
how I used to
neighbors. Yeah.
accomplish it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down 10 years from now, like
We
get our
should,
own
yeah,
land.
let's be neighbors.
Yeah, yeah, let's build a compound.
I know.
Let's do it.
Sounds awesome.
This is the time capsule. We're gonna look back and we're gonna say, "Hey, we called it. We knew it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't mess with that power.
Don't mess with it. Yeah. Yeah,
Shadow
you know something
Knight.
that I think is super powerful? A calendar. When I put some shit on my calendar,
Yes.
it's gonna happen. It's
Yeah.
going to be made.
Even if I
Yeah.
put too much shit on there, it's gonna happen eventually. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna rearrange things. And then it's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
If not today, then maybe tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't want to make it seem like this is a difficult journey, guys. It's really just about like embracing yourself, having fun, going through those obstacles, having that healing, and then getting to that point where you feel really grateful. And no matter what comes at you, you're always going to keep uplifting yourself through that experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just follow your fucking heart, dude. Also, another thing within my 10-year plan is that definitely within the next 10 years, I would love to have like a proper private tattoo practice, like a private tattooing studio. So I'm learning to use the tattoo machine right now. And I'm so excited, and I have plenty of people that have offered their bodies so that I could practice, which is so
Yeah.
great. I'm not gonna do that for another couple months until I like practice quite a bit on
Yeah.
like fake skin and fruits and probably find some pig skin somewhere. But yeah, I would love to have like I've already kind of envisioned this in a few of my meditations, where I have like this cute little small studio space with just one like massage chair seat or whatever they use, and plants everywhere, and it's just like my own little private practice, and I want to make it into like a whole little ceremony for people, and like give it like a little prayer or something. I don't know. I want to make it like a really special experience, and I think it's kind of surprising actually how deep I've gotten into body art, because I started with Jaguar. And so for those of you who don't know, Jagua is it's kind of the same process, the same concept as henna, except it's a different paste. It's made from this fruit from the Amazon, and it stains your skin like a bluish black, so it looks like a real tattoo. And it's pretty convincing. And I have been doing that for maybe like 3, 4 years, and I've done it at many festivals and different events and things. And I still do it every now and then. And now I'm starting a new job here in Denver. I'm going to be doing body painting at this like Burning Man inspired club. So that's kind of exciting. And so,
Perfect
yeah, I
fit.
don't know. Yeah, like all these different body art kind of inclinations. And I never really expected to be so like in that world. And I'm really, really, really wanting to do permanent tattoos. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. Like, I know there's like a bunch of different indigenous tribes that do like stick and pokes, and it's usually like a whole ceremony. So that would be super interesting to see you like bringing that into your practice. And those are hardcore, man. They'd be like jamming those needles in. Like,
Yeah, yeah, there's so many different methods.
yeah.
And yeah, it looks
Yeah.
really hardcore.
I
Yeah.
can so see you doing that. We loved our Jaguar tattoos. It
Yeah.
was such a cool experience, and it was very intimate. Like you were saying, like it does feel like a ceremony is happening, which is
Yeah,
nice. I think you can bring that to tattoos as well.
yeah, absolutely. That's something that I've found in my life that is so important to me, just something that brings me so much joy, connecting with people. Even if it's just for like a couple minutes, or if it's for like a full, hour, 3 hours, however long like a tattoo will take me. I love that. I find so much joy in connecting with people. I find so much joy. This is why I personally think that I'm pretty good at networking, because I will just kind of go out there and talk to anybody and just say hi. And like at the MAPS conference, there were so many different artists that I had been following for such a long time. And they have no idea who the hell I am. But I went over and just kind of introduced myself, and that's it. Like, don't overthink it. Just go talk to people. Like, people are usually going to be super fucking nice. And you never know what can come out of that either. I mean, obviously I don't like make friends for the purpose of like getting opportunities for myself, but
Mhm.
that's just like such an amazing byproduct that has always come from that. And yeah, I think if you want to be a professional artist, you really need to learn you need to learn some social skills.
Yeah.
You need to get out there.
And I think
And
that it feeds back into it as well because like if you're just coming from like a genuine place, you're going to also help like other people as well, and then that's going to just feed off. Maybe it won't be from that exact person, but it could be from some other opportunity. And that it's like kind of building like your good karma points, you know? And
Yeah, and you're not always gonna find an already like ready-made community. Sometimes you have to build it yourself.
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the whole concept of helping people, giving back to my community has been something that's been on my mind a lot recently. I sometimes wonder like this yeah, I have so much fun making art and doing all these things and like, being praised for my work and whatnot, but it can't be just all for me and for my own benefit,
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out different ways that I can kind of like give back. And I feel like this body art thing where I get to connect with people and drop in with them can be something along that route.
Yeah, I agree. I think that regardless of even if you're doing it for yourself, there's something that somebody else is seeing and that can motivate them to even want to operate from a space of your themselves. But even then, it's individuality equals community. So like if you are a person and you have all this love to share, you're going to want to reach out. And yeah, like I think networking is extremely important. Even if you're shy and you're not really sure where to start, go to your local gallery, find your one artist friend. Maybe they're kind of a jerk to you, but like don't give them so much of your attention. There's other nice people everywhere, and there's so many different art communities. There's not just like this one thing, and you have to force yourself for people to like you, like you just have to be authentic and be yourself. And from there, that's when that networking opportunities really do begin. And maybe it does require you leaving your home state like we did, which I feel like since we've been out here, Rex and we've been getting so many different opportunities, and it's only been a few months, and I know you can definitely agree.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and it's never good to force anything. It's never good to force a connection. Like if it's just not happening, it's not freaking happening. But I think something that's also pretty important, pretty helpful along your path as a professional, if you really want to grow, is to find an opportunity to work for another artist. I think that's huge. That has been so helpful for me. I mean, wow, I've learned more about the art world and the business of being an artist by working for other artists.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
I think that, we're definitely on that same route as well. And I'm just really excited for all of our futures, and I feel like we're just a community here, even if it's just the three of us. Really, it's I think that there's so much growth that we're going through, and we just want to inspire everybody. And yeah, Paula, I mean, would you like to add anything else, or maybe let us know where we can find your art and your website?
So my Instagram and my website are both paulacamacho.art. Yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, and Paula does Jaguar at events, and eventually we'll be tattooing you, hopefully. So make sure to hit her up. I know for sure we're gonna get some tattoos, and we're gonna support her. We're gonna build up her portfolio so she can take photos of our flesh with tattoos on it.
Hell yeah, Rex is
And
gonna get a huge back tat.
and you should do the
Oh,
same
hell yeah.
thing. If you're listening to this, you're being peer pressured. All the cool kids are getting tattoos by Paula, and you need to as well if you want to be cool.
Period.
Period. Thank you so much for being on the
Yes.
podcast, Paula. We love you, and we are wishing you lots of luck. And thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you guys for having me. It was so fun. And I'm also wishing you guys all the luck in your careers, and may we all prosper.